There's a reason Teddy Bridgewater always has multiple suitors. There's a reason Tyrod Taylor always has multiple suitors. We know they don't throw the ball down the field. And I want you to talk about that because I asked Herm Edwards once about you. And he said, listen, the quarterback room is the most important room in my facility. And I need people that will lubricate it, not agitate it. And just your thoughts about when you look at these college quarterbacks and maturity, how did you view it?
Well, you're exactly right, Colin. I completely view it that way because we are talking about professionalism. We are talking about there are two men within the organization that carry records. No one else does. That is the head coach and the quarterback. And so you have to have a quarterback that understands professionalism, that understands maturity, that understands how to work with other people. This is a people business we are in, and you must have a mature guy to be able to do that.
When you retired, you actually had the highest completion percentage in the history of the league. I think it's still like top 5 or 6. Sam Darnold goes to the Panthers. There are concerns. Sam is athletic. He's a gamer. He is alpha. He's a guy's guy. His accuracy concerns people. Does it concern you, Chad?
It doesn't concern me as much because I think accuracy also lends itself to talking about decision making. And so when we're talking about decision making, sometimes your accuracy or your completion percentage can be affected by the types of decisions you're making. So that's where I think Sam can take a huge step in Carolina is, yes, we love those sexy plays, those over-the-top throws. But what are you doing when those plays aren't there? Are you throwing the ball away? Are you checking it down? Are you getting some extra yards with your feet to keep the chains and drives moving?
You know, it's interesting. You spent 3 years with the Dolphins. In fact, do you live in Miami now?
I do not. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
All right. That's a beautiful place, too. But Miami's very interesting. You know the culture there. Is that, you know, I said years ago, Eli Manning took years and years to figure it out. I get it. Peyton Manning, year 4 in Indianapolis, had like 30 picks. But, you know, Chad, it all changed. You didn't grow up with all these 7-on-7 camps. You didn't have 10,000 throws by the time you were 11. So I am less patient, Chad. I'm going to give you about 16 starts. I'm not giving you 32. I'm not giving you 48. And I watched Tua, and he seems a little robotic. He seems a little rigid. He doesn't have a special arm. Off platform, off script. He doesn't feel special. In a division now with Josh Allen. Is my cynicism legitimate, or am I being too impatient?
Well, I do think you make a great point that our quarterbacks are coming into the league a little bit more prepared from a repetition standpoint. But remember, that repetition is not against guys who are 6 to 8 years older than them, who have a lot more knowledge as far as the game of football. And that's the big difference. A lot of times we talk about the speed of our game, but I really think it's the knowledge that goes with the speed of our game, because now the reason those windows are closing faster is not because of a 4-4 guy. We have 4-4 guys in college too. It's because that 4-4 guy has 8 more years of knowledge of football, and he anticipates faster mentally. And so that's where you have to have some patience. Maybe not the 5-year patience anymore, but no doubt I still think that 3-year window is crucial. Because that first year, a guy's just learning how to be a professional. He's just been going to class, going to workouts, and playing ball. Now he has to learn how to deal with off-the-field activities, his own finances, writing his own checks, doing these other things. And, oh, yeah, by the way, learn an NFL playbook.
You know, you were the last quarterback to lead the Jets to an AFC East title and the last quarterback to lead the Dolphins to an AFC East title. And one of the things, Herm and I had talked about this, you didn't go to Ohio State or Alabama. So when you played college football, you often played with non-NFL players. Same with Matt Ryan. Same with Big Ben. Same with Phillip Rivers. Same with Dak Prescott. A lot of Alabama quarterbacks, USC quarterbacks, Ohio State quarterbacks, Matt Leinart didn't get hit much in college. You did. And I look at Mac Jones, and my concern is, Chad, he didn't trail in the second half of any games. He had perfect protection. If you look at the receivers Alabama's had the last 2 years, Chad, they're all top 10 picks. They're all wide open. When you came into the league, you had played in the muddy pocket. You were running for your life. The windows were small. I look at him and I think he's a better prospect than a Tim Tebow, but I watched Tim Tebow in college and I thought, there's a lot of wide open wide receivers in Florida with Urban Meyer. Should I be concerned that Mac's college experience won't even resemble his NFL experience?
It is a legitimate concern. I'll give you two things to think about, though. Number one, the people I've talked to talk about his work ethic and grinding and how he really works at the game. That is irreplaceable. And so when you have a player like that, sometimes you get a player that's so used to playing with that talent, when they play with lesser talent, they have no idea what to do because they haven't worked at their craft. I think Mac Jones will work at his craft, which is really important. The other thing that I think is interesting is that Mac Jones was originally supposed to go to the University of Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, and he chose Alabama to be developed. He chose not to just be the guy from freshman year. He made the choice to go, I'm going to a place where I can be developed in an NFL-type environment. To me, that says a lot about him and who he wants to be.
We are changing the NFL now. It is a more mobile league. Quarterbacks, my theory on this, Chad, has been that once the CBA limited the number of practices, it hurt the offensive line more than any individual unit because that's the unit that needs a bond and chemistry. The defensive line, if you got a Khalil Mack, a Chase Young, those guys are just outliers and they can get to the quarterback. But an offensive line is about practice, the technical, tactical portion of it. So O-lines are worse, meaning quarterbacks got to be able to move. When you look at some of these quarterbacks now that move out of the pocket, do you think we go back to the pocket, or do you think this is the future of quarterback, having a great athlete who can now be your quarterback could be your first, second, or third best athlete?
Well, I still believe wholeheartedly that the quarterback position, there's no doubt that you have to have more movement. You have to have more movement because our athletes in general are better, regardless of the CBA. You have to have more movement, more athleticism because of our RPO schemes and some things that we are asking our quarterbacks to do. However, our quarterbacks cannot become running backs. They just cannot. They will not survive. These athletes, these defenders, these tacklers, they are way too good, and we will have a plethora of quarterbacks on the injured reserve list if we move to that. And you better have 2 and 3 quarterbacks on your roster. You will not survive a 17-game season with a quarterback who doesn't try to remain a passer. So it's one thing to be mobile and to get out of trouble and then to be able to make passes down the field. It's another to get out of trouble and think I can go run all the time. You cannot do that in this league. That is a big difference between college and the NFL.
So Kyle Pitts to me is Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts are my two guys in the draft. I just think they're can't miss. And the draft doesn't have many. Most guys, if you get a bad coach, a bad position coach, there's injuries, there's busts. Kyle Pitts reminds me a little bit of Patrick Willis from Ole Miss that went to 49ers. And I remember watching him in college, and I'm like, he's an NFL player in college. Like, he doesn't even look like the other guys. Penei Sewell's got a little bit of that. Jamar Chase, a little bit of that. But I think Kyle Pitts he's an NFL tight end playing college right now. Go back to all your years with the Jets and the Dolphins. Were there ever draft picks that came into the facility, and you can name names or not, that you knew instantly, oh my, that guy's going to work? Or conversely, wow, he looks over his head. I mean, Pitts just physically looks different than other players.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one player that comes to mind was Jake Long when we drafted him in Miami, and we immediately inserted him into the left tackle position. Now, imagine that. Go right into the left tackle as a rookie, and it was just amazing, his production. I think of Nick Mangold, who was inserted immediately into the center position with the New York Jets. His mental capabilities and being able to work with me and figuring out protections and run calls, it was outstanding as a rookie. Those two guys really jump out on the page at me as two guys who came in as rookies and immediately made an impact with what they were able to do.
So, Chad, what do you do now? You're a smart guy. What are you doing in your life?
So working with the NFL Legends community as a co-executive director of the community, where we're building out initiatives as our guys leave the league to make sure we're supporting them and their families in their transition away from the game. coaching high school football, which I've really enjoyed coaching. I've got 3 boys. I've got 2 in high school right now, so coaching high school football and trying to raise a family.
By the way, what kind of offense you run?
We are certainly a single back, one back team with some wing T run principles, and certainly trying to push the ball down the field in the passing game.
I like to hear it. I like to hear it, baby. Get the ball down the field. Chad, a pleasure. Such a credit to the league. Thank you so much, Chad.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.